Aloha, and thank you for joining us on Monday's edition of This Is Now. My name is Davis alongside Mark Carpenter. Dylan and Ashley have the day off today. We want to start today by having HPD has opened a first-degree arson investigation after a fire on the set of a major film production on the North Shore.
And sources tell us this was for Disney's Lilo and Stitch, and this was supposed to be the first day of production. Now, the Honolulu Fire Department says the blaze broke out just before 11 last night in Haleiwa, near Kamehameha Highway and Kane Hall Road. Now, the fire was under a trailer, and HFD says flames spread to the contents inside the container. Hawaii News Now has learned the trailer contained specialized costumes, and damage is estimated to be at least $200,000. Firefighters had it extinguished by 1 a.m., and crews managed to keep the blaze from spreading to other nearby trailers. Sources say no one was hurt and no workers were on the scene. Shooting is scheduled to resume tomorrow. Stay with us on air and online for any updates on this story. We're learning more about the victims in this weekend's mass shooting at a 16th birthday party in Alabama. Police say 4 were killed, 28 others hurt, mostly teenagers. Omar Villafranca has the story.
When I heard the gunshot, I started to run from the building. Then I came back when it stopped.
LaTanya Allen recalled the moment she heard gunfire erupt at her daughter's Sweet 16 party in Dadeville, Alabama, Saturday night. Among the dead, her 18-year-old son, Phil Dowdell. A star athlete, Dowdell was just weeks from graduation and recently committed to play football at Jacksonville State next year.
I was standing right beside him.
Daquan Doss says he was with Dowdell at the party inside the Mahogany Masterpiece Dance Center, but the two ran in opposite directions when gunshots rang out.
I think he went right into it. I went opposite way. I wish I could have pulled him out.
Also killed, 23-year-old Corbin Holston, 19-year-old Marcia Collins, and 17-year-old Shankivia Nicole Smith. Dozens of other young people were hurt and taken to the hospital.
It's very traumatic in the healthcare setting and the emergency room setting when you have one gunshot wound come through. But when you have 15 and they're all teenagers, our staff has been through a lot.
A group of lawmakers in Alabama called for new gun legislation Monday, something they planned before the deadly weekend shooting.
No child in Alabama should be afraid of getting shot and killed at a Sweet 16 birthday party.
Witnesses report more than one shooter. Police are asking anyone with information to come forward, but have not provided other details. Omar Villafranca, CBS News, Dadeville, Alabama.
The search continues for a shooter who killed 2 and wounded 3 others in Ma'ili this weekend. Police say the shooting happened after an illegal chicken fight near Kaukamana Road late Friday into early Saturday. We're told it started as an argument that eventually turned violent. The suspect, who is believed to be in his 20s, is still on the run. HNN has confirmed the 2 that were killed were related. Loved ones have identified them as Gary and Kathy Rabaliza. A longtime friend of Gary, a father of 5, says she'll remember him as a family man. She asks us to blur her face to ensure her family's safety.
You shouldn't be jumping into conclusions, and just know that, this is somebody's father, somebody's kid, and it's sad that he lost his life. I want everybody to remember him as a very respectful, humble, happy person, a loving father to his kids.
The other 3 people who were wounded were treated and have been released from the hospital. Anyone with information is urged to contact Honolulu Crime Stoppers at 808-955-8300.
2 men are in serious condition following a motorcycle crash on Fort Weaver Road. It happened around 11 o'clock last night. EMS says they treated 2 men, both in their 50s, and transported them to a nearby hospital. The cause of the crash is unknown. Now, that accident is the latest in what was a dangerous weekend on Oahu roadways, as 3 people were killed in separate incidents. Early Saturday morning, a 31-year-old motorcyclist hit a guardrail after losing control on the H1. And it came just after a 29-year-old driver was killed after losing control on the Likelike Highway in Kaneohe. On Saturday afternoon, a 50-year-old motorcyclist was killed after rear-ending a car near the Kauka off-ramp. Police believe speed played a factor in all 3 of the crashes, and there have now been 19 traffic deaths on Oahu this year, 3 more than at this time in 2022.
On Maui, police are searching for a teen who may have been taken by his grandmother. 14-year-old Kainoa Nahina Snoddy was visiting Tabitha Darai Hazen this month, but was supposed to return home to Washington State April 9th. Police were notified Friday, and attempts to locate the pair have been unsuccessful. Hazen is known to drive a black 2000 Toyota Tacoma with plate number LLG458. If you've seen the 2 or know where they are, call Maui Police.
Alleged kidnapper Duncan Mahi has been deemed mentally fit to stand trial. The 52-year-old Hawaii Island man is accused of abducting a 15-year-old girl at knife point at Anaiho'omalu Bay last September. She was able to escape in Hilo the next day. Mahi has pleaded not guilty to all charges. His bail is set at $2 million, and the trial is set to begin in August.
There have been 162 mass shootings in the U.S. so far this year. Now, that's according to the Gun Violence Archive. Now, today, thousands feeling unsafe took to the streets in 2 major U.S. cities. CBS's Skylar Henry is at one of the protests in Washington, D.C.
Assault weapons have to go!
Protesters marched through the National Mall carrying photos of loved ones lost to gun violence and calling on Congress to ban assault weapons.
I'm terrified every single day, every single moment, because it's not if it will happen again, it's when.
Lindsay Hartman was at the 4th of July parade in Highland Park, Illinois last year when a gunman killed 7 people and wounded 48 others. She says she shielded her 4-year-old from the bullets.
There's no reason for weapons of war to exist in the way that they do with no regulation.
A new CBS News poll finds 62% of Americans want to ban the AR-15 semi-automatic rifle. But the poll also found stark differences along ideological lines. 81% of liberals think the U.S. would be safer if fewer or no people own guns. 40% of conservatives think the U.S. would be safer if more people or everyone had guns. Gun violence remains a top concern for most Americans, according to the CBS News poll, including 77% of parents and 60% of students. But at this weekend's annual NRA convention, several Republican presidential candidates indicated there's no appetite for gun control legislation within the GOP.
The issue is not too many guns. The issue is too many thugs, hoodlums, and savage criminals on our street. We don't need gun control. We need crime control.
A study from the Kaiser Family Foundation found roughly 1 in 5 Americans have had a shooting death in their family. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Washington.
Well, as Congress returns from spring break, lawmakers are tackling some major issues. Among the top, raising the nation's debt ceiling, and that could have implications on your finances. Mike Valerio joins us with more. Mike.
And Mark, it is so important for people to understand at home. If this debt ceiling is not raised, so many people think, how would it affect me? Well, it could potentially impact all of our ability to get a loan, pay off our mortgages, or even have Social Security payments on time.
A financial crisis may be looming.
If it did happen, it would have very, very negative impact.
As lawmakers in Washington have yet to come to an agreement on raising the nation's debt ceiling.
I understand the politics, but there is a time when the higher interest of a nation has to prevail.
Democrats are seeking a clean bill to increase the country's borrowing capacity. But House Republicans want to leverage their slim majority to win concessions on spending from the White House.
A no strings attached debt limit increase will not pass.
That kind of discussion, the cuts, belongs in a discussion about the budget, not as a precondition for avoiding default.
A default on U.S. debt payments would cut off the U.S. Treasury from borrowing, potentially affecting Social Security payments, veterans benefits, and federal employees' salaries, among others. To guard your finances in case of a potential default, Bankrate's Greg McBride advises paying down your debt and building up emergency savings.
Unfortunately, we're hostage to this because there aren't a whole lot of action steps that we as consumers can take to fully insulate ourselves.
And says the political brinksmanship alone is damaging.
Even if it gets solved at the 11th hour, markets get nervous. And when that happens, there's less incentive or less appetite for risk.
And Mark, the first time that Speaker McCarthy and President Biden spoke about this subject was 75 days ago. The two have not met at the White House to discuss it since. Mark.
Thank you very much, Mike. Now, so many different scenarios to map out here. Now, first off, what could happen if the debt ceiling is not raised?
Well, you know, Mark, if the Treasury is cut off from borrowing, we could see the scenario where it cannot repay everybody who it needs to pay back. So we could run into the scenario where the government is trying to pay off bonds that it needs to pay off, but at the same time, will we get our Social Security payments? Maybe not. Will members of the military be repaid? Or will members of the federal government, federal employees be paid? Perhaps not, because the federal government cannot borrow anymore. So we run into that situation. But, you know, for so many people who are watching this who say, you know, I've lived through shutdowns of the federal government before, I'm not a Fed. Banks in this situation, Mark, do not really want to lend out their money. They want to keep their money in-house. So in an environment like that, if you have a small business getting a loan, next to impossible. If you have an adjustable rate mortgage, that mortgage rate could go through the roof. So we think of the untold thousands of Americans who may default on their mortgage payments, and then we have the threat of a recession with thousands of jobs potentially lost. So, Mark, the consequences really could be catastrophic here.
Catastrophic and terrifying. And a follow-up to that, I mean, just kind of as looking at how these conversations unfold, when could you see this entering American homes?
Yeah, you know, so this is the X date that we're talking about. This is, you know, a precarious topic of conversation because we don't know when exactly the cliff will happen, when we're going to be looking at the cliff exactly. But, Mark, there are analysts from Goldman and JP Morgan Chase who say that they think between the middle of August to early September is the date that we're looking at. It could happen as early as June, but it's not known. It's not a fixed date because this all depends on the revenue that enters the Treasury coffers, and that fluctuates depending on market conditions. So again, mid-August to early September seems to be the most likely date, but stay tuned. This is really what makes it a difficult conversation because it is not known.
Mike Valerio joining us from Los Angeles. Thank you so much. We really always appreciate your time and insight. Thank you.
Weiss Teachers Union has announced a new 4-year contract deal with the state. The tentative settlement includes a 14.5% raise for teachers over the life of the contract, which equates to over $10,000 for each on average. Professional job development, improved working conditions, and teacher protections are also addressed. HSTA President Osa Tui Jr. called the negotiations the most collaborative he's ever had with the Board of Education. He credited Governor Josh Green with helping push the deal over the finish line. Green, along with the BOE and union officials, will hold a 2 p.m. press conference today at the Capitol to announce the agreement. It is pending a ratification vote set for April 26th. If passed, the new contract would take effect on July 1st.
Well, hopefully this isn't breaking news for you, but tomorrow is tax day, the filing deadline to submit your federal returns. About a quarter of U.S. taxpayers are procrastinators, studies show, and wait until the last minute to file. You do have a bit more time for your state returns, as those are due by Thursday. In the future, tax day may be a different experience. The IRS is reportedly looking into developing a government-operated, free-to-file electronic system for all.
The famous Kaukilike Mall in Chinatown is getting some much-needed attention. Casey Lund gives us a look at the $4.4 million project that gets started today.
Aloha from Kaukilike Mall here. Some big improvements coming. This is a really big project as well, $4.4 million. And it's going to cause some congestion here in town, but many of the vendors that we've been talking to say it's a welcome project and much needed. We're going to talk to the project manager. Hong Lee is with us from the Department of Transportation Services from the City and County of Honolulu. Can you give us an idea how this is going to change over the next few months?
Thank you. So pretty much what you see between the buildings will be replaced by new improvements, including the new pavement, the new landscaping, the new drainage system, the lighting, and the electrical system we're putting in.
Yeah, and we've talked to Paul Min, one of the vendors here at the market, who says that, when sometimes it rains, it floods and causes all kinds of problems. So most of the folks we've talked to say this is really a welcomed improvement. I do want to ask, though, about the cultural significance of this place and what the city's doing to kind of respect that and take that into account as this moves forward.
Yes, we are very mindful of the culture and heritage of Chinatown. As part of this project, the dragon decal on the street at the intersection of King will be relocated to the center of the mall. That's welcome news to a lot of people in Chinatown.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, I think we've talked to certain vendors and some of the folks that live and work down here, and they say they're actually really excited about this, though they'll need to be patient. And I want to talk a little bit about that with Tyler Dos Santos Tam, city council member who represents this area. That's the feedback that you're getting, though, from most people, is that this is about time for this to happen.
Absolutely. A lot of the vendors who've been here, some of them for decades, have seen the ups and downs. And I think we're at a point where really positive things are happening. This project is really a catalyst, I think, for further improvements in Chinatown that we're going to be seeing over the next few years.
And what can you say for folks like Paul Min, who again is one of the vendors here in the marketplace, for their customers to still, even though a little congestion, there will be some construction work, to still come out and support these folks?
Well, definitely keep on coming down during the construction period. We saw it during COVID when a lot of things were shut down, and now that we're after that, people need to keep on supporting their favorite businesses. And for people who maybe haven't come to Chinatown in a while, maybe they see some of the negative headlines, come on down, check it out. There's a lot of improvements underway. We're hoping to clean up this historic neighborhood.
I'm hearing that from many of the businesses that we talk to, that they feel that the city's effort to improve things actually is making a difference. So I want to thank you both for being with us today. Tyler Dos Santos Tam and Hong Lee with us here. We'll have more details on that project. Again, construction happening Monday through Friday from 9 to 5, not during the weekends and holidays, and that's really important, especially for a lot of vendors down here. For now, we'll send things back to you.
Thank you very much, Casey. Let's give you a live look outside right now. Some clouds rolling in. I guess we were spoiled over the weekend with just some magnificent weather. Looking ahead, though, to the rest of the week, rain could be on the way. Let's check in with Guy Hoggy.
We got a surplus of wind and rain coming from this front. Remember, strong gusty Kona winds are due in tomorrow. That front's going to come into Kauai by tomorrow morning, and it's going to move down the island chain through the day on Wednesday into Thursday. We're talking heavy rainfall, thunderstorms, maybe even some flooding conditions out there. Remember, there is a flood watch that will be posted tomorrow for Kauai running through Wednesday. And then as we head toward the weekend, things are really going to settle down. But we got to get through the wet weather first. So again, that front going to be onto Kauai tomorrow, going to move down the island chain through Wednesday, to some extent Thursday. Some of the moisture will be hanging around the east end of the state. So this is the time frame here. If you live in an area that is flooded before, take precautions for more flooding to occur. And these gusty winds could maybe down some trees, down power lines, maybe even create some spotty power outages, and then things should settle down by Thursday and Friday.
Well, this Earth Week has millions focusing on the planet and how to preserve it for future generations. Ian Lee takes us to London, where they're using a creative campaign to target plastic pollution.
Scavengers are on the hunt at this beach in the English county of Cornwall, but not for treasure.
This might just look like a few little bits, but it's everywhere. It's billions and billions and billions of pieces.
Volunteers are digging for tiny pellets used to manufacture plastic products, particles that wash up on land, nicknamed mermaid's tears for their environmental impact.
They resemble fish eggs.
Birds and other sea life sometimes eat them, taking in toxic pollutants.
We can monitor what's going in.
Retired engineer Rob Arnold built a machine to collect them.
The sand sinks to the bottom, as you can see, and everything else is carried off into this strainer.
Arnold estimates he's recovered 20 million tiny pellets on this beach alone, and he's combining his art skills with plastic pollution to make a point.
I wanted people to view this and think, and to feel somehow responsible that, this is plastic that I use.
New research reveals more than 170 trillion plastic particles are floating in the world's oceans. And even when hauled in, biologists say reusing the microscopic material is a tough task.
Separating this and turning it into value
is going to be incredibly challenging. Really, the thing that we need to do, it's about trying to stop the plastics getting into the environment in the first place.
And while this plastic pursuit may be just a drop in the ocean, volunteers hope to create a new wave of change. Ian Lee, CBS News, London.
That really is some captivating video right there. Now, switching gears, huge weekend for sports. Now it's time to talk some story about what we saw.
This is what I was waiting for,
in
Mark.
the sports
This is
universe.
what I was waiting for.
Headphones coming off.
It's coming off, yeah.
Round one, opening weekend of the NBA playoffs. Let's just, break it down. So as we roll the images, we saw Miami Heat take out the top seed Milwaukee Bucks. We saw the Lakers take out the 2 seed Memphis Grizzlies. Clippers hand the Suns their first loss with Kevin Durant in Phoenix. Kings Warriors gave us a thriller. I know we had more games than that, but those are kind of just the high points and the highlights of what we saw. Davis, what surprised you the most from the action that we witnessed?
Mark, this is my field. I'm a big sports guy, watching all these games. I'm a big Warriors fan, so of course I'm going to be surprised about the Warriors. I thought we were to come in, win that game. 3-point loss, I'm sad that we lost that game, but I feel okay with it. I feel okay with where we're at. Not as good as you, though. I know, big Lakers guy yourself. You guys had a good day. I mean, I'm kind of jealous of that.
Well, there's so much drama in the postseason. As we go to game, I think it really is easy to fall into overreactions as we see a one-game result. But yeah, I mean, I was impressed with what I saw from the Lakers after following this team. I mean, completely different team from what we saw in the first half of the season, as they were just playing some horrendous basketball. Down the stretch, it feels like they're a new team, so we'll keep an eye on what happens as the series goes on. Game 2, it seems that Ja Morant will not be playing. But also, on the Kings-Warriors front,
yes,
that was some high drama on Saturday night. And to see a team when the Warriors are going on one of those just untouchable runs, 3 after 3 after 3 after big play, and to see the Kings down the stretch answer every single time was something we have not seen in quite a while. So that was impressive to see.
I got to give them a lot of credit. The Kings haven't been in this position
and they
for
feel disrespected. They're a 3 seed. No one thinks they should be there.
Yeah, exactly. And, this was something that I don't really think we expected. I think coming into this, we knew that they were a good team, of course, making it into the playoffs with the 3rd seed, I believe. But, I mean, looking at the guards, you have Fox, who's a starter, but then on their bench, too, Monk. Both putting up over 30 points. Something that I know we didn't see coming at all, but I think something that we're planning for.
That was a game that stuck with you, Davis.
It was.
Like we say, that's one game in the books. Let's not overreact.
Yep.
That was our moment to react what we saw with NBA drama. It's a long postseason. But switching gears, let's bring the conversation back here at home. Just some dazzling spectacles that we saw in Manoa with the Rainbow Warriors men's volleyball team can now turn its attention to the playoffs. Bows wrapped up the regular season, a straight set win over UC San Diego. UH now has a share of the Big West regular season title. Top seed going into the conference tourney. Night ended with a tribute to 6 of the team's seniors, and this team has been magical. Davis, your thoughts on just where the Bows are right now at this critical point of the year?
I think they're coming in strong. They pretty much have all their players returning from last year. We all know the historic run that they made last year. And, I was there at that game, too, just the intensity that they bring. And we saw that last game. Clean sweep. And what a nice tribute. You're looking at these pictures right now. Jakob Tella, he's been outstanding this year. I feel really confident. Coming in as co-champions out of this league. I'm really proud of where they're at. I think all of the state is proud of where they're at, and I'm really excited.
Reigning, defending, 2-time
Let's keep it going.
National champions. That's all you have to say. Whenever there are any questions about this Rainbow Warriors men's volleyball team, back-to-back national champions. They're the top dogs going into the conference tourney, and so we'll keep a close eye on what unfolds and have the highlights throughout the week. Before we go, something we're still buzzing about. Many are still talking about just incredible 60th annual Merrie Monarch Hula Festival. Just really great stuff. Congratulations to all the halal that participated, everyone involved that made it a success.
Absolutely.
We have some images to show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just from kind of just the great moments that we
Miss
saw.
Aloha Hula right there. Once again, what an amazing 60th anniversary. Our entire team, big shout out to our entire team out there. We just want to let this draw out and just give you guys some of the highlights from this anniversary.